Hi, I'm Patrick, and I'm 36 years old. Me and my business partner Brandon run a business that is all about landscaping and lawn care services. Our business has landscaping and lawn care products, and additionally, we also have a division that provides lawn care services to our customers. We deliver our products all over the country, and we are expanding our services operational area gradually. We started in 2015, and the business has now become a cash cow, bringing in good revenue. But I never knew this revenue would soon be the reason for betrayals from my loved ones. Me and my wife, Rachel, were high school sweethearts. We were married for 4 years. We're not together anymore, and there's a pretty good reason behind it. After high school, I went to another state to study business, and Rachel stayed in the city and did part-time jobs. We were in a long-distance relationship for 2 years, with a lot of ups and downs, but we managed to survive and eventually ended up getting married 5 years ago. During my time studying business, I met Scott. He used to sit next to me during lectures, and soon we became friends. We always used to chill together, and eventually became best friends after the first year of college. After we graduated, I came back home and Scott went back to his home. I started a business here with Brandon. I've known Brandon since my childhood. Our families knew each other, and that's how we became friends. He had the capital and I had the idea, so we started our lawn care company. One day I got a call from Scott. It was the year 2018. He called me and said he was coming to my city and we should catch up. But little did I know he had an ulterior motive. He called me and everything seemed fine. He was the same old usual Scott I knew from college. "Hey, Patty, how are you? Recognize me?" "It's Scotty, isn't it? You're the only one who calls me Patty." "Who else could it be but your highness, Scott?" "Oh, hey man, how have you been? It's been such a long time." "I'm good. What about you? You alright?" "Better than ever. After college was done, I thought you'd call me every day, considering the clingy kind of person you are." "Oh, you're just getting ahead of yourself. I didn't miss you at all. I even forgot I had a friend named Patrick." Same old Scotty. Always on his toes, never missing a chance to drop a sneak attack. You know me so well. Well, I did spend 2 years of my life with you, didn't I? 2 excruciating years of my life. You missed me. I'm touched. I missed you too, man. Oh hey, listen, I'm coming to your city next week. You are? Yes, I have an uncle there. I'm coming to meet him. We should catch up, grab some beer, and eat some junk food. You know, just like old times. Absolutely. Just drop me your pin. After I'm done meeting my uncle, I'll come and meet you. Sounds like a plan. I'll send you the pin. When will you be coming here? I'll most likely be there on Friday evening. I'll spend the night at my uncle's and I'll catch you on Saturday. Sound good? Perfect. Can't wait. Scott didn't seem to have changed at all. He sounded just like the old Scott he used to be when we were in college. Witty with his replies, funny and fun. I was so happy to hear that he was coming to the city. I told Rachel about it and she could see the joy in my face. After all, I was going to meet my best friend after a very long time. The next week, Scott came to my house and I introduced him to Rachel. He and Rachel instantly became friends, double teaming and sharing old embarrassing stories with me. We were having fun. We had a couple of beers and we were just casually catching up. "Rachel, so Patrick here used to talk about you all day long when we were in college. He told me a lot of things about you." "All good things, I hope." "The best of things. I never believed him, but now that I'm meeting you, I can't help but wonder what did you see in this fool?" "Well, somebody had to take the bullet for the sake of humanity." "Amen." Hey, I'm starting to think this was a mistake letting you guys meet. And Rachel, you need to be on my team." "I am, babe. But it's fun to know how embarrassing you were in college." "Oh, you have no idea. People used to think that I was a loser when I used to chill with him. As far as I can remember, it was the other way around." "You've certainly grown old. It's alright. Memory tends to get foggy with age." "We're the same age, you fool. And yet, look at me. I can still outrun you 10 times in a race." "Yeah, whatever. Hey, so listen. I wanted to talk to you about something. I'm trying to open up a restaurant here, but I don't have enough money. I see you are already running a successful business here. Can you hook me up with some of the investors?" "You want to open up a restaurant?" "Yes, I lost my job 3 months ago. I hated my job. I want to get into business. After all, we studied business in college, didn't we? Time to put it to good use." "Are you sure? I mean, opening up a restaurant can be very challenging. Don't worry, I've thought this through. Can you hook me up with some investors? I'm sure you must be in touch with some. Yeah, I'll ask my business partner, Brandon. He was the one who arranged most of the money for our business. Maybe he can help you. All right, thanks, man. No problem, Scotty. We talked for a while and I insisted Scott stay the night in my place instead of the hotel. He agreed. I called Brandon after we had pizzas and told him about Scott and how he was looking for an investor to invest in his restaurant. Brandon said he would see what he could do about it. The next day, Brandon made a few calls here and there and set up a meeting with Frank. Frank is a businessman and a pretty good one. He also invested in our business when we were just starting. We were supposed to meet him in the evening over dinner. I told Scott about it, and I could see on his face that he was so happy to hear the news. I told Scott that he could stay in my place for as long as he wanted. Scott went to his hotel and got his things. We had the whole afternoon to ourselves. I showed him around the city. I thought he could do a little sightseeing to find a good location for his restaurant, and then we got back home, got ready, and went to the restaurant where the meeting was supposed to happen with Frank. Brandon was also coming, so it was me, Scott, Brandon, and Frank. We got to the restaurant and Brandon was already sitting at one of the tables. We went up to him and I introduced Scott to Brandon. We ordered some drinks and shortly after, Frank arrived. Brandon introduced Frank to Scott and we ordered our food and proceeded to talk business. So, Scott, what kind of restaurant are you planning to open up? You see, there are a lot of restaurants here in the city. What makes you think you can compete with them? I mean, look at the one we're sitting in right now. It's pretty good, isn't it? I'm planning to open a multi-cuisine ethnic restaurant. You see, people here love to experience new things. I'll be serving them cuisines from different parts of the world. We'll have Italian, Japanese, Indian, and more. Sounds good, but do you have that kind of manpower to run an operation like that? I have everything we need. I have chefs and bartenders, and we'll hire stewards from around here. All I need is the capital to kickstart it. Why didn't you start the restaurant in your city? Why this city in particular? I think I'll answer this one. For the same reason me and Brandon decided to open up our business here. You see, people here have the purchasing capacity. Unlike Scott City, this city is open to new experiences and will pay well to have it. Look at our business. People hire us to take care of their lawns. I'm pretty sure they'd be willing to spend as much money, if not more, on food. I mean, look at it this way. I'm pretty sure people here spend more money on food than lawn care services. It's a pretty good opening. That's a fair point. I knew they taught you kids about good business in that college of yours. They did, Frank. Look, you bet on us, and we ended up being the winning horse, didn't we? I know Scott, and he has a plan, a pretty good one. I believe this thing is gonna work. Why don't you invest in his restaurant then? I've heard you're earning quite a fortune taking care of people's lawns. You know us, Frank. Me and Patrick, we know lawns, not food. I mean, I wouldn't dare enter a business that I knew nothing about, let alone invest in it. Plus, we're already expanding the areas for our lawn care services. We can't afford to stand on two boats at once. The restaurant business is for Scott. And you've got a lot more money than us anyway, Frank, don't you? You guys got heart. I've known Patrick and Brandon for years now, and I know they're good businessmen. And if they say your restaurant is going to work, I'm convinced. How much do you want? Let's talk about ownership structure and profit sharing. You got it. Scott and Frank discussed the capital and profit sharing of the restaurant, and they closed a deal. We ordered some drinks to celebrate, and then Frank pushed off saying his wife must be waiting for him at home. Frank left, but we were in no mood to leave the restaurant. We ordered more drinks and food to celebrate the closing of the deal. Scott was happy that it was finally happening. He was going to open up his restaurant. All of us were a little tipsy by then. We were just having fun, talking about random things, when things got a little heated between Brandon and Scott. So, Scott, where did you get these chefs and bartenders from? What chefs and bartenders? The ones you told Frank about. You said you already have the manpower, didn't you? Oh, that? I was lying. I got nothing. I'll start hiring people when I get the money. What? Did you lie to Frank? Well, I couldn't just tell him the truth. He would have never invested. What is wrong with you? Why would you lie about something like this? Hey, what's the matter with you? Why are you so uptight about this? Scott, Frank is also one of our investors. If you are not able to get these chefs and bartenders, Frank will screw us all. Chill out, Brandon. I'll figure out everything. Hey, Patrick, why don't you say something about this? Scotty, you shouldn't have lied to Frank. He is risking his money, investing in your business. You have to stay true to your investors about your business. Plus, if you fail to bring in these people, Frank might just screw our business as well. What is wrong with both of you? A little lie never harmed anyone. I wanted to get that investment. I couldn't afford to lose it. I had to lie. Are you serious? You could have just said that you were in the process of hiring these people. That would have made more sense. It would have also bought you some more time. Hey, listen, you have to lie a little in business. You would have known this if you actually got a degree in business like me and Patrick. Excuse me? They're teaching you to lie to your investors in college? Man, get off my back, will you? Enough, both of you. Quit fighting with each other. Brandon is right, Scott. You have to get these people if you want to open up a restaurant. Oh, come on, you too. Don't you understand, Scotty? This lie could cost you your entire dream of opening up a restaurant. Fine, I'll figure this out, I promise. Now can we please have our drinks and enjoy the night? I don't want to be part of this. I'm out. Hey, wait, Brandon. Bye, Brand Boy. Let him go, Patty. He doesn't understand. It's just you and me now, just like the old times. Just try to have fun, all right? He's right, you know. I'll figure it out, trust me. Now have your drink and enjoy the night. After a few weeks, Scott and Frank started working on the restaurant, and Scott did manage to hire chefs and bartenders somehow. They also hired stewards from around the city. Frank took care of the financing, permits, and licensing through his resources, and the restaurant was ready to open in no time. It took a little less than 4 months to open up the restaurant. The restaurant opened up, however, it did not do very well. After a few months, it started struggling to sustain itself, barely making it through each month. Turns out, the chefs and the bartenders that Scott hired were not legit. They were not good at their jobs, and the restaurant started to fail miserably. After some time, Scott and I got busy with our own businesses and we barely met, even though we were in the same city. Brandon and Scott never got along after that night in the restaurant. It had been 6 months since Scott opened up the restaurant and it was barely working out for him. It was almost on the verge of shutting down. We used to meet Frank and he used to tell us about it. He didn't blame us for anything. He was an old player in the world of investing. He knew not every horse that you bet on wins, so he was pretty cool about it. One time, Brandon and I had to go out of the city to check up on our business operations running in other states. We were planning to travel for a week to meet our investors and also plan the expansion of our lawn care services business. Rachel and I also had our wedding anniversary in the same week. Brandon insisted that I stay home for the anniversary and he would go and meet up with the investors, but I had to go. After all, Brandon was in charge of the finance and I was the one looking after operations. I had to be there to plan the expansion of the business. Rachel didn't have a problem with it as well. Rachel and I decided that we should celebrate it as soon as I came back. Brandon and I went out of town and fortunately, we met most of our investors in the same place. We had our meeting and we discussed expansion plans. It was supposed to be a week-long trip, but we were able to do everything in 5 days. Brandon told me that I could still make it to my wedding anniversary day and he would take care of everything that's left there. I agreed. I took the first flight back home and reached the city in the afternoon of the anniversary day. I took a cab home. I bought a necklace, a bracelet, and a bouquet of flowers for Rachel on the way. I was planning to surprise her. When I got home, I slowly sneaked into the house with all the gifts and the bouquet. While I was sneaking in, I saw a familiar coat hanging on the coat stand. I looked at it and realized it was Scott's. My body froze, and panic surged through me as I was registering what I was seeing. Although my mind was racing possibilities, I still had a little hope that maybe I was just overthinking it. Maybe Scott dropped by to wish us on our anniversary. But I still wasn't convinced, so I decided to remain hidden. After a while, I heard some noises coming from the other room. I carefully sneaked up to the room and slowly opened the door. I saw Scott and Rachel sitting on the chairs, close to each other. My heart sank as my mind started putting the pieces together. I was furious and sad at the same time. And then I heard them say something that ran through my body. A range of emotions, from betrayal to disbelief to anger. They were planning to rob me and run away. You know how it has been. The restaurant is about to shut down and I have no money left to repay Frank. I know it has been tough, but it'll be all right, trust me. The only way out I can see for the both of us is to steal Patrick's money and run away. We cannot just steal his money. We'd end up behind bars. It's true, we can't steal it, but you can have it legally. I told you, Scott, I need some time to think about it. There's not much time left, Rachel. You need to divorce him and claim half of his wealth. I don't know if I'll be able to do it. You can. I know you can. Just tell him you're not happy with him and ask for a divorce. Also, claim half of his wealth. He loves you, and I'm sure he would be willing to settle on something. We get as much money as we can get from him, and then we run away. Are you sure this is going to work? I am sure it's going to work. Trust me. All right, I'll ask for divorce once he comes back. He loves me, and I am sure he would be willing to give some part of his wealth to me. After all, we've been together for so many years. And one more thing. Don't let him know about us. He could use it against us in court. Of course not. Don't worry. He won't find out. We'll get as much money as we can from him, and then we'll run away. We'll go far from here, someplace nice. Of course. The moment I heard all of this, I freaked out. I stepped out of the house and called the cops. I told them about how my wife was with another man in my house, and they were planning to rob me. The cops told me not to enter the house and that they were on their way. Shortly after the call, the cops came to my house. I told them that Scott and Rachel were inside. They went inside and got both of them outside. The moment Rachel and Scott saw me, their faces paled. They were horrified to see me. As the cops were taking them to custody, Rachel started yelling at me, saying that it wasn't what it looked like. I told them about how I heard both of them planning to extort money from me. She started yelling that I was lying. The cops took both of them to the station. I was also summoned to the station. I called Brandon and told him everything. He told me he was on his way home. When the cops took Scott and Rachel to the station and asked them if it was true, they straight up denied everything. Rachel said that it was my devious plan to get a divorce from her, so I was framing her and Scott. I filed a complaint and the police started investigating. The investigation went on for 2 months. After Brandon came, he advised me to hire a private detective to collect as much evidence as I could of them plotting to rob me, and I did. The private detective did his job and retrieved some of the emails and text messages of Scott and Rachel plotting to rob me with a divorce. The cops did their work too. They were able to get a hold of call recordings that had them plotting about how they were going to rob me. The cops also found out that Rachel was secretly transferring money to Scott's account. She was transferring it little by little so that I wouldn't notice, and I didn't. I couldn't believe my wife was capable of doing something like that. The cops went around the neighborhood and found out that Scott often used to visit Rachel in my absence. We made a pretty strong case against them. We provided all the evidence to the court, and the judge ruled in our favor. Both Rachel and Scott were charged with many offenses such as embezzlement, theft, conspiracy, fraud, and more. Both of them were sentenced to spend years behind bars. I still remember it was our last court hearing, and all of us were present in the courtroom. I turned my head to look at Scott, but he didn't look me in the eye. Although his head was down, I still didn't see a drop of regret in his face. I never thought my college best friend, Scott, could do something like this. And Rachel looked at me with teary eyes, trying to convince me to take back the complaint and take her back. But I was not ready to do that. I couldn't trust that woman anymore. The moment the judge rolled out the sentence, she broke down, and she started yelling at Scott in the courtroom, telling him that all of this was his fault, and Scott was just standing there with his head down. It has been a little more than a year since Rachel and Scott were sent away. I've moved on with my life, and now I am focusing on my business. I do hope that jail time helps Rachel and Scott think about the bad things they have done, and help them become better people. After we got to know the truth about Scott, me and Brandon felt guilty for convincing Frank to invest in his restaurant. So we decided to take over the restaurant, renovate it, and hire new staff. It has been 6 months now, and it's already doing better. We'll soon break even on the investment, and then we can start paying back Frank, along with his share of profit. Brandon has been a life support for me in every stage of my life, and I'm happy that I have him with me. I still look back at that day when Scott called me, and I jokingly told him how spending 2 years with him in college was excruciating for me. Well, turns out, it was indeed a curse in disguise of a blessing. And as for Rachel, I don't know what got into her, but I hope when she gets out, she takes all of this as a lesson and changes. And as for me, I'm focusing on my life and on my business right now. I guess I could also use a little lawn maintenance in the backyard of my life.